Welcome. Today, we're going to journey back about 2,500 years to get a handle on the birth of a philosophy that didn't just reshape a continent, but now touches the lives of millions and millions of people all over the world. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at the world the Buddha was actually born into. Then, we'll follow his own personal quest. After that, we'll see the totally revolutionary community he built, track how it spread across the globe, and then, at the end, we'll ask, so what does all this mean for us today?
You know, to really get why Buddhism was such a game changer, we first have to understand the world it came from. And let me tell you, it was a world in the middle of some really dramatic changes.
So try to picture this, a world in just massive flux. Brand new iron technology was changing everything. Everything, from how you farmed to how you fought wars. Cities were just exploding in size, and this new merchant class was starting to challenge the old established order. This wasn't just about money changing hands. No, this was shaking the very foundations of society. It created this kind of ideological vacuum and a new focus on the individual.
And in this chaotic environment, you basically had two competing worldviews duking it out. On one side, you had the old guard, the Brahminical tradition. This was all about ritual, sacrifice, and hereditary priests doing things to get you worldly benefits. But then, on the other side, you had these new groups, the Shramana movements. These were wandering ascetics, basically spiritual seekers who were questioning everything and searching for a deeper, personal kind of liberation. It was right into this world of change and spiritual searching, that a man named Siddhartha Gautama was born.
So Siddhartha was born a prince, right? He was completely sheltered from all the suffering of the world, but his life took a massive turn when, as a young man, he decided to venture outside his palace. And for the very first time, he was confronted with the harsh realities of old age, sickness, and death. It changed everything.
After years of searching and some pretty intense meditation, he finally achieved enlightenment while sitting under a Bodhi tree. And his core insight, the big breakthrough that made him the Buddha, came to him as the Four Noble Truths. First, he realized that life, just by its nature, involves suffering. Second, he saw that this suffering is caused by our cravings and our attachments. But, and this is the absolute key, he saw that it's possible to end this suffering. There's a way out, a clear, practical path you can follow.
But here's the thing. The Buddha's path wasn't meant to be a solo journey. He was the founder of a brand new spiritual movement that, from the very start, was built around community.
He called this community the Sangha, and it was a completely radical departure from the way society was structured back then. It was an intentional community, which means people chose to be there. They were all dedicated to cultivating peace and taking personal responsibility for their own spiritual journey.
Now, this whole setup directly challenged the rigid caste system of the time. Think about it. In Brahminical society, your entire life, your status, was determined by who you were born to. But in the Sangha, it didn't matter one bit who your parents were. Membership was voluntary. It was open to absolutely everyone, and the focus shifted completely from your family's ritual purity to your own personal conduct and insight.
And, as you can probably guess, this powerful new philosophy wasn't going to stay a local movement for long. Oh no, it was absolutely destined for the world stage.
A really key turning point was the conversion of Emperor Ashoka. After this incredibly brutal military campaign, he was just filled with remorse. He completely embraced Buddhism. And get this, he transformed his entire goal from military conquest to what he called conquest by Dhamma, or righteousness. He committed to ruling with compassion and spreading this philosophy across his massive empire.
A big reason it spread so successfully was its ability to adapt. As merchants carried these ideas along trade routes like the famous Silk Road, Buddhism evolved. The Theravada school, which is based on the earliest scriptures, spread through Southeast Asia. Mahayana Buddhism traveled all the way to East Asia, and Vajrayana took root in Tibet. Each one of these traditions absorbed parts of the local culture, and that was absolutely key to its global success.
So let's fast forward to today. How do we understand this ancient tradition now, and what are we still learning about where it all began?
What's pretty amazing is that we're still making new discoveries. Recent archaeology in Lumbini, Nepal, actually unearthed a tree shrine that dates all the way back to the 6th century BCE. As Professor Cunningham points out, this find firmly plants the Buddha's life right in the middle of that intense social and urban upheaval we talked about earlier. It gives us a really clear context for his message, that true value isn't found in wealth or status.
Buddhism's legacy today is, well, it's complicated, especially when you look at popular practices like mindfulness. I mean, you hear that word everywhere, right? In its modern secular form, it's often used as a tool for reducing stress. But its original Buddhist goal was way, way more ambitious. It wasn't just to manage suffering, but to end it completely by fundamentally transforming your entire worldview.
And that evolution is still happening right now. You have movements like Buddhist modernism that are actively reinterpreting these ancient teachings for a modern, secular, scientific world. They're downplaying ideas like rebirth and reframing concepts like karma to speak to our lives today.
Which really brings us to our final thought here. Buddhism was born as a direct response to the suffering and uncertainty of a rapidly changing world. It offered a path based on looking inward, on compassion, and on personal responsibility. And that really leaves us to wonder, what can its core message, a message that was forged in a time of profound upheaval, offer our own turbulent times?